Can you speak a little bit about managing content in your theaters?
Sure. Well, I think, not to sound like broke a record here, but yeah, a lot of what we deal with in terms of issues at this point are to do with communications and saying timing more than anything else. If we have a problem, it tends to be with late delivery of a key, or we'll have problems with versioning. I came across a quote recently that was given to me actually in a book of film quotations when I was at UIP from my staff, and quite like it. John Landis, the film director, used to say, if you can drive a car, you can direct a movie. Now, you know, it's an oversimplification of his business, but I think it sort of has some implications for what we try to do. I suppose the goal should always be about trying to simplify stuff. And where we have the primary issues tends to be where things get complicated, where we have lots of versioning, where we have experiments like high frame rate to deal with, and the things those kind of things are off. So I think, you know, we as exhibitors are obviously always keenly interested in portraying the films the way the directors want them portrayed. So we're always going to grasp the challenge of doing that. But that's where we run into issues if you look at it from at a cinema level. So in a lot of ways, I think digital has simplified our lives, but then we keep throwing these wrinkles in all the time. And that's where it gets interesting.
Tom, I mean, you were coming off having released probably the most complicated feature ever released by any studio. Can you speak to some of the challenges that Warner Brothers has experienced with both content and key delivery, you know, around the world? And does it differ also regionally?
No, I think it pretty much covers all regions equally, just depending on the release and depending on the scope. I mean, we do many titles, especially when you have a title that's day and date across thousands of screens internationally, including domestic. It actually becomes quite a challenge to make sure that every key is working on every screen that we want it to be booked on. But I think transferring the first question you had to Howard and to Joe and so forth, and then the question on content, I think overall we do a pretty good job. I mean, the industry as a whole managing this really on a manual level. And Howard, you said phone calls. Joe, you said there's a remediation program in terms of getting keys delivered. But I think a real efficient way to improve this is more automation. I mean, you have to sort of try to eliminate the human error. So some sort of automated response or some form of a centralized repository of information that exhibitors can go to using, you know, a consistent naming conventions, very, I would say, organized one-stop shop in a way, so that information can be provided and everyone from the industry, all different participants, exhibitors, distributors, manufacturers can use it. In relation to that, one thing that, from our perspective, and we're working on this to try to improve that communication with our vendors and with exhibitors as well, is to look at a more, I'd say, interactive, automated response between the keys and when it's delivered and if it's ready to play. So right now, as a distributor, we deliver a DCP, we only get confirmation that it's being sent to the site. We don't get further confirmation that it has been uploaded correctly, digested correctly in the TPMs. We don't have any of that information. And in addition, for KDMs, we don't get information that it's actually been ready to go, so we can coordinate and integrate this with our booking systems. So if we had that communication, I think we would actually mitigate a lot of the opportunities for dark screens. So it's an evolving process, right. And I think overall Technicolor and Deluxe and others have provided opportunities in terms of their portals they're introducing to make sure that these types of updates are made in a very fast and efficient manner, but I think there's still room for improvement.
So are you talking about more like an FLMX kind of feed that comes back from the servers and the TMS and the equipment? Greg, can you talk about that a little bit? Are you guys working on anything that would help facilitate that sort of automation that Tom's talking about?
So there's a considerable development effort that's gone on at Technicolor. Again, I think everyone's noticed that the digital cinema world is entirely too dependent on email. With email, there's spreadsheets, orders coming in from territories around the world, and particularly when we're managing these day-and-day releases, that can be a challenge. So we're looking to figure out how we can standardize the information first via portals, and then from a development perspective, work with other companies, obviously, who are more downstream, who actually have a pathway into the theaters to get that information.